Hello and welcome to AMM Talks, a virtual forum for professional wedding officiants to share their expertise. I'm Marissa. I'm the marketing and events coordinator at AMM, and I'm here with my co-host Jessica. She's AMM's lead writer, and she'll be behind the scenes. So send her any messages if you have any technical questions. Today, we're joined by Officiant Rich Satman. Rich is an experienced officiant and owner of Let's Not and Say We Did, and its sister company, the Arizona Elopement Collective, based out of Phoenix, Arizona. He works with his wife, Shelby. She's an incredible photographer and project manager, and the two have created over 200 unforgettable weddings in 7 states and counting. And in addition to officiating, Rich serves as a sales coach, somatic release breathwork facilitator, sound healing practitioner, and relationship coach, all of which gives him a unique insight and expertise into working closely with the couples and making him an incredible guide to the art of hospitality for wedding officiants. So let's hear from Rich, and then we'll open things up for questions once he's done. So Rich, I will go ahead and spotlight you.
Cool. Awesome. So great to have all of you here. We're going to talk about hospitality. Hospitality is something that I think can apply really to any industry, because I think hospitality is really a choice. And one, I'd like to, I was telling them before this call, I don't think I've prepared a presentation since college. So I like to talk though, so I think we're going to have some fun. When I started to think about hospitality, there's always this quote that really stands out to me. Most of you may have heard it before. It's by Maya Angelou, and it's that I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you make them feel. Hospitality is really about 3 things: personalization, attention to detail, and creating memorable experiences. Now, when you think about hospitality, which is a big word, most people think of hospitality as something that they do. And I like to think about hospitality more so as an act of service. How do my actions make other people feel? And whether you're just starting off your officiating business, or whether you've signed up because you were asked by a dear friend to officiate their wedding, or maybe you're in the position where you run a successful wedding business, regardless of where you're at, hospitality is this multi-dimensional language, because it has the power to transcend barriers in the most unexpected of ways. People expect service, right? You go to the store, you go to the hotel, you go to dinner, you expect to get service, you expect to get waited on, but I don't think people necessarily expect hospitality, right? I mean, think about the last time that somebody showed you hospitality. It's kind of surprised. It kind of leaves you with a surprised feeling, like, oh, I didn't expect that. And hospitality has this way and this ability of transcending an experience. So regardless of if it's a restaurant or a hotel or somebody's wedding day, hospitality has the way to enhance it in a way that no one expects or anticipates. When somebody shows you hospitality, you are typically met with a surprise reaction, or at least maybe that's just me, because it has this ability to transcend race, transcend gender, transcend religion, language, location, culture. You know, during this AMM chat and even after, really like think about and reflect, because if you think about the moments when somebody has shown you hospitality, it truly can influence the way that you show hospitality to others. It's very reciprocal. And it's great for coming up with ideas of how to make other people feel taken care of. And that's really, hospitality does give me this sense when it's shown to me, it leaves me feeling taken care of. I don't have many moments in my life, and I think it's sad to say, I don't know if it's just because it's 2023 and service, in my opinion, has gone extremely downhill. It's hard to get service at a basic restaurant or any of the big box stores. Service is now also becoming a surprising act, let alone being hospitable. And so I was reflecting on probably my most recent experience with hospitality, and that was I like to wake surf. It's a new thing for me to get out on the water and do that. And it was also a new experience for me to have the boat chartered. So if you've never done that, essentially you're paying to rent the boat, and then you're paying a captain to drive the boat around. And wake surfing is very technical. You have to have the water just right, and the right board, and the right equipment, and apparently the right driver as well, something I have never done before. So we charted this boat with me and a bunch of guys, and I can't tell you how much I felt taken care of by this experience. And it didn't happen until afterwards. So we're on the boat. He drives up right to the marina, picks us up. The boat's ready to go. It's clean. There's seats for everybody. There's a cooler full of beverages. He says, hey, here's the Bluetooth code to connect your phone, and off we go. And he's driving us around. He's grabbing the board. He's preparing it. Didn't have to lift a finger. Now, the reason this left me surprised is because I had never experienced anything like this in my life before. I didn't know that this type of experience even existed. But at the end of the day, we had a tremendous time, and really it left me with the sense of feeling taken care of. I didn't have to do anything. And so really, like, it also left me with the sense of, this is how I try to make other people feel. And it didn't hit me. This happened, I don't know, 4 months ago. And I was like, oh my, it just left me with such a tangible grasp on like what I try to do in the world and how I try to show up, is to leave people with a sense of feeling taken care of. And when you think about service and hospitality, service to me is going through the motion. It's just, you're getting paid an hourly wage, you're getting paid a service fee, you're just going through the motions. And hospitality is a choice. Hospitality is something that's done from a place of intentionality and purpose. It's not something that just randomly happens. Intention means every decision, by the way, not just the most obviously significant, but also the seemingly mundane. It all matters. And when you serve as an officiant, you too have the choice of seeing it as being in the hospitality business. And maybe that's a new way or a new perspective for you to take, or a new hat to put on, that you're doing it from a place of hospitality. And you can see it as having the privilege of joining people as they celebrate one of the most joyful moments in their lives. And most important, I think we have an opportunity as officiants, or dare I say, responsibility, to make magic in a world that desperately needs it. And there's a book that I highly recommend. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality. It's by Will, I'm going to butcher his last name, but it's like Guidara or Guidaria or something like that. He's a Michelin star chef, owns the best restaurant in the entire world in New York City. His book is truly life-changing if you haven't read it. One of the things I took away from his book, I love this. He says, think of service as black and white, and hospitality is the color. And I started to sit with that for a little bit. Like, what are some examples as an officiant that are more service black and white color, are black and white, and what's more color based? And so, for instance, wearing formal attire to officiate a wedding is black and white. Asking the couple beforehand, hey, what colors are you wearing to your wedding? What's your color palette like? What kind of tie are you wearing? What color socks are you wearing? You can get as detailed as you want, but asking about their attire so that you can blend in and make their photos look that much more incredible, that is color. I always ask every time before I officiate, it's on my planner before I meet with the couple, is, hey, what are your wedding colors? And if it's say a bride and a groom, hey, what color suit are you wearing? What are your accent colors? And then I tell them why. I tell them the intention behind doing that is, hey, look, you're investing a lot of money in these photos, and I want them to look the best they can. And so I'm going to complement that by what I wear. And I would always joke around with couples. I would say, if you want me to wear a clown costume or some costume, I'll wear that too. And don't ask don't you get what you wish for type of thing. I had a couple ask me to dress up. They were doing a Dungeons and Dragons themed wedding in a castle, and all 100 people showed up in cosplay, and they asked me if I would dress up as the officiant. And so I got excited. Hospitality is one of those things that just gives back to you. You don't really get burned out by being hospitable to other people. And so it really like gives you lots of energy, at least for me it does. And I went out and found 4 different outfits and I sent them all to them. And I was like, which one of these do you want me to wear? And I dressed up as this like dark underlord, like costume thing. And then I showed up and everybody's in cosplay. It was incredible. So it really goes the distance because they said they were having such a hard time finding anybody that would go along with their vision. And so going along with it and playing a part played such a huge deal in the way that it made them feel. And again, this is all going back to how do you make people feel? Another example would be reading from a generic script with no eye contact is service. But referencing a script while making authentic connections with your couple using eye contact and adding in little personal details throughout that relate to both them and their potential guests, that is hospitality. You know, as the quote from Maya reference, people will forget what you say. And just showing up and reading a script is really a service when you think about it. But when you can focus on your delivery, I know this may sound crass, but people aren't going to remember what you say. Like, it's funny, even when I do the repeat after me's, like I've probably done 300 or 400 ceremonies, and you get up there and you'll do a repeat after me, maybe before they put the ring on the finger. They forget like 3 words of a sentence that you just gave them, right? And so like the words matter, but like the delivery matters even more. How are you holding the space? How are you making them feel? Are you giving eye contact? Are you telling them it's okay to slow down? Touch is a very powerful tool. Touching on the elbow or on the arm. A lot of times when couples are reading their vows, they like to go really fast and they don't give a lot of eye contact because they're afraid that they're going to just break down. And just a gentle touch can go so far with that. Another example would be jetting out after you've signed the marriage license. Trying to get out of there, you've signed it, your job's done, that's service. But jetting over to the bar to grab the couple their favorite beverages, that's hospitality. Something they're not expecting, something they're probably expecting their wedding planner to do, to be honest. You know, think about as an officiant, you may go, well, they don't have a bar. It's just a backyard wedding. Like it's very like this applies to regardless of where the wedding's taking place. Think about it as what sort of white glove touches can I add to this experience to enhance it? And for me, like I found that most couples are thirsty after standing up there for 15 minutes during a wedding ceremony. All of the emotions, all of the anxiety, all of the nerves, all of the butterflies, like it leaves you parched. And seeing that, oh, I could run, they have to do this whole processional thing. I can run over and I can grab them a drink. And usually I've asked them before the wedding, hey, what's your guys' favorite beverage? What do you want me to grab you when you're done? Or I'll ask them on the spot, hey, what would you guys like from the bar? I'll go grab it for you. Sometimes it's water and their favorite cocktail. It really makes them feel taken care of. And then in regards to the license, I mean, I take care of filing the license for them. Obviously you're signing it. And I imagine some officiants probably just give it back. Like, here you go, like file it. I take care of that as part of what I do. It's one less thing for them to have to do. And again, it makes their experience that much better. I think another way to look at this is showing up to officiate a wedding with a smile. That's service. Showing up with a smile and a personal gift, that's hospitality. You know, in our business, we do something called the 95-5 rule. And I took this from the book Unreasonable Hospitality. Simply put, the 95-5 rule is that we manage 95% of our business down to the penny. And we spend the last 5% foolishly. And what's cool about that is that last 5%, at first glance, that may sound extremely irresponsible. But it's anything but, because that last 5% has been some of the smartest money I've ever spent. And it's created that everlasting feeling to be on both the giving side and the receiving side of it. because it isn't the lavishness of the gift that counts. It's the pricelessness, right? So I've thought about a couple gifts that I've given people. This one couple, they decide everything by a coin flip. So I went on Etsy and I was like, I bet I can make a coin. So I go on there and I'm like, custom coin. And their names were Katie and Nick. And I got one side that said Katie and one side that said Nick. And that's how we were going to decide. They had no idea. In the middle of the ceremony, I pull out this coin. I said, I had this coin specially made for you. Imagine how that made them feel. It cost me $7, $7. They're never going to forget that. There's this other couple. I like to do fun unity ceremonies, like unity ceremonies that are completely custom to the couple I'm working with. And this this one couple, they loved cooking together, and they loved making they made salsa together, right? And so for the unity ceremony, I was like, well, why don't we make salsa? Why don't we get all the ingredients and we have the wedding planner like put all the ingredients up there? And this was a 150-person wedding. This wasn't an elopement. And I bought them a bowl specifically for this, and it was based on the colors that they told me they were going to have in their wedding. They had no idea I was bringing the bowl. They had some like generic, like it was from the hotel, and I was like, no, like I got you guys something special. Here's the bowl we're going to use. Blown away. Imagine how that made somebody feel. I had this one couple. This was for our elopement. Again, you kind of get to decide, like maybe you're doing this for free. And like I said, it's not the lavishness of the gift, but it's the pricelessness. So you can find like the $7 coin, like that costs, I mean, that's nothing. That's a Starbucks latte. If you want to get more expensive with it, because some of you may charge, you know, our elopement packages are definitely higher. There's a higher price point. And so that 5% becomes a little bit more wiggle room to like be lavish with it, right? There was this one couple who they'd been together for 12 years. And they celebrated all of their milestones by getting a star map based on where they were in that moment, right? So I was like, oh, I'm going to get them a star map of where because we were having their wedding. We were going off-roading. We we're going to be up in the mountains. And I found the exact location, the GPS coordinates, and I submitted it to this star company, and they made a map. And as part of after the ceremony, we presented it to them as a gift. No idea it was coming. And again, I could go on and on with these examples, because a lot of times it's fun to come up with ideas to like, ooh, I'm gonna try to do this, and like I bet they're gonna love this, or this is gonna make them feel special. It's all about like the 95-5 rule gives us the ability to surprise and delight, and that's what hospitality is all about. A little bit of surprise, a little bit of delight. Another example would be telling guests to please rise. That's service. Talking with the DJ or the musicians beforehand so you can get the cue down perfect, that's hospitality. Like hospitality is all in the details. So so almost everyone, I think this is funny, almost everyone in here is probably guilty, I know I am, of either forgetting to tell the guests to rise or forgetting to tell them to sit down after the fact. For me, it was telling them to sit down. And once you do it, when it happens to you, because it'll probably happen to you if you do it long enough, once it happens, it'll never happen again. Because it kind of leaves this like, oh man, like don't beat yourself up too bad, but what if it happens, it won't happen again, I promise. One of the things I like to do is if they're having music, and 99% of the time, couples are going to have some form of music, whether it's a DJ, whether it's a musician, a quartet, or a Bluetooth speaker. Like again, like weddings can be expressed in so many different ways. So let's say it's a Bluetooth speaker as well. Finding out who's running that Bluetooth speaker. Oh, Uncle Jim's running it. Let me go talk to Uncle Jim and let him know, hey, the couple, like there's so many details. So like one of the questions is like, I ask couples, hey, do you want the giving away question to be asked? Because there's a lot of people that don't want that question. I never assume that like people want to be given away. So I always ask, hey, would you like me to ask a form of this question? Is that meaningful to you? So that's something to communicate with the musicians. Because if you don't tell the musicians that you're going to ask a question, then they're playing music, or the DJ's playing music super loud, and all of a sudden you're just kind of muffled. Nobody can really understand what you're saying. So these like, hey, by the way, there's going to be no question. So when they get up to the end of the aisle, like you guys can continue playing. Like being the master of ceremony, you're orchestrating. You're orchestrating the experience. And I also, on the back end, like to tell them what I'm going to say at the end. Hey, this is going to be my last words. So some couples don't like to be pronounced, for lack of a better term. Like they want the last thing I say for them to be is sharing their first kiss. And they want that to be it because they don't want to be pronounced in any sort of the way, which is totally fine. So that's also important to communicate to the musicians. Because if the musicians, because at most weddings, there's a pronouncement. But if the wedding that you're at happens to be there's no pronouncement, the musicians might wait for you to announce them. And all of a sudden you're just like, you're giving them hand signals to hey, go ahead, start playing the music. Like all of these create that like type of like, it's a feeling aspect. The details matter. Let me see if there's anything else I want to say on that. Oh, yeah, last one. Okay. Showing up to the event on time or 30 minutes before, whatever you've agreed to, that's service. Showing up and intentionally grounding yourself to create a peaceful presence, that is hospitality. What I have found is that officiants are real people. We have bad days. We have arguments with our spouses. We have some of us get tickets on the way to driving to officiate a wedding, right? Things happen. And or maybe you've never officiated a wedding before and you have so much anxiety going through your body, through your system of like, am I going to say the right things? Am I going to do all like you're running through all these check boxes in your head. And so all of that goes to say, it's so easy to let those type of things affect how you show up, right? And so I went back and I was looking at the AMM YouTube, and so this is just a shout out or a throwback to Rachel Tanner. If you're wanting to know more about how to create a space, right? As an officiant, I totally agree with her. You're showing up and you're holding space. You're creating a sacred space, and in order to do that, you really have to show up in a very grounded sense to hold that space. I don't know if there's like a way to go by show of hands, but I personally have like a routine that I do to show up and to ground myself. It's super simple. It takes 30 seconds. Would anybody be interested in me going through that with you on this call? Would that be beneficial? Getting some thumbs up, some head nods. Okay, so cool. Here's what we're gonna do. If you can, I want you to stand up. I usually I'll show up to the ceremony. This isn't something you do in your car, right? So you show up to the ceremony. If you can, go ahead and stand to your feet. I find usually a private place to stand. Sometimes it's in the bathroom. Sometimes it's behind the venue. Sometimes it's like in the parking lot because I've parked somewhere where there's nobody going to be over there, right? And I want you to close your eyes. And I want you all to take a deep inhale in and an audible exhale out. And as your eyes are closed, I want you to imagine a cord that's connected from your feet into the core of the earth. I also want you to imagine a cord that's connected from your crown, from the top of your head, into the heavens. And maybe this is you today. Maybe you're dealing with anxiety or frustration or anger. Maybe somebody cut you off earlier or somebody's made you frustrated today and you showed up at this call kind of dealing with your own stuff. I want you to take those feelings and those thoughts and your experience of what you're going through. And I want you to imagine placing all of that behind you. Placing it all behind you to be held and dealt with at a later time. Some of you may find it's also helpful to take those things and maybe put them in a ball and set them off to the side. You compact them up and set them over to the side. And as you do this, I want you to inhale. Imagine inhaling through your feet. So inhale through your feet. Exhale through your heart. Inhale through your heart. Exhale through your crown. Inhale through your crown.
Exhale through your heart. Inhale through your heart and exhale through your feet. And when you're ready, you can come back. I don't know about you, and it's hard to tell because we're not live in a room together, but I feel very peaceful right now. When we get to the question and answer, I'd love to know like what came up for you or how you felt or how you feel currently before and after, or feel free to drop it in the chat, like kind of what you're experiencing or what you experienced after doing it. This little like 30, 60-second exercise, it's great to do before you meet with any couple. Before you have any type of important interaction with someone, before you go into any type of ceremony, like all of that stuff can impact how you choose to show hospitality, how you choose to show up. And the kicker to this entire thing is that you can only show hospitality when you are paying attention. You can't show it when you're in a hurry. You can't show it when you're frustrated. You can't show it when you're flustered. All of that stuff that's out here makes it extremely difficult to even want to show hospitality to anyone. You can only show hospitality when you are paying attention. And to pay attention, you have to be present. You have to be here with what or with who is in front of you. Hospitality is not running around asking how you can help. Hey, how can I help? How can I help? What can I do for you? That is mental exhaustion, and frankly, it's annoying. Nobody likes the person who's running around yelling how can I help? How can I help? That's so much emotional labor to even try to answer that, especially if somebody is already like on a wedding day. I say 30 minutes before the ceremony starts. That's when the wedding butterflies kick in, and for most people that can be a lot. So to ask them what they need in that moment, or like it's not appropriate. It's the subtle things that make the difference. I like to call it having kind of a 360 view of what's happening. So you're here, but you're also thinking, well, if I do this, how is that going to impact here? Or if they do this, like how can I meet them on the back end? Like you're kind of anticipating needs. You're anticipating what the couple might need or want in order to serve them better. Needs like having a tissue on you. Fellas, it's super easy in your jacket. Stuff some tissues. I don't know for the ladies. I don't know where to tell you to put the tissues, but I having something like that, or even having a pen to sign the license instead of running around. Who has a pen? Who has a pen? Who has like? You should have the pen. Like you're anticipating what's going to take place from when you show up to when you leave. You're anticipating all of the needs that could arise. But I know a lot of this stuff may sound extremely basic, but it's stuff that can easily go missed and goes missed often. And that's what really sets you apart from just being somebody who's providing a service, is paying attention to the details. There's another book, highly recommend. It's written from a Christian perspective. I'm personally not Christian, so I was able, you kind of have to like sift through certain things. But the title says everything. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And the premise of this book is essentially that all of these virtues that we strive to be, whether it's I want to be more peaceful or joyful or grateful or kind or compassionate or loving, or be it, for the sake of this talk, hospitable, none of that's possible if you're in a hurry. None of that's possible if you're stressed and anxious. And you may be stressed and anxious on the way, but when you get there, it's important to really ground yourself so that you can show up and be the most hospitable version of yourself that you can be. And as a final note, I think that in the economy of hospitality, there's a little secret. Hospitality is a selfish pleasure. It feels really, really great to make people feel good. It feels fulfilling. And it makes me love what I do even more. I love finding ways that are super unique to surprise people and unexpected avenues that make them feel loved and supported and nourished. And I try to do that. I'm not perfect at it, but I try to do it with every interaction, whether I'm officiating or whether I'm at a restaurant or at a hotel. And those are the type of experiences. If you've never experienced hospitality before, I imagine all of us have, but once you experience it, once you get a taste of it, you want more of it. And whether that's you giving it to somebody or somebody giving it to you, I seek out restaurants that I know I'm going to have a hospitable experience at. There are reasons I stay at certain hotels over other hotels. I love going into a hotel where they know my name. I have some system set up where I walk in and they're like, "Hello, Mr. Satnam. It's great to have you this evening. I have you down for," I don't have to tell there, "Well, what's your name?" Like I have to look it up in the system. Like those little details, like they mean so much to me because it means so much for me to like provide that level of service. So once you start to pay attention to that, it's interesting to see like how it develops within your own personal life for you to seek out and appreciate those experiences even more. So with that, I think I'm going to pause and stop. I don't know how long I've been talking, but I surprised myself. So I'll pause and turn it back over for questions or whatever happens next. I'm here and available for.
Great. Thank you so much, Rich. That was awesome. We're going to go ahead and transition into the Q&A portion of our segment. So for the Q&A, if you have a question for Rich, please raise your virtual hand. It's in the reactions tab down below and we'll call on you, or you can go ahead and type it into the chat and we can read them out loud. So whoever has the first question, I think I see Larissa Park, so I'll go ahead and unmute you, Larissa.
Thank you so much. This was a great presentation this evening. My question is in regards to the white glove service that you mentioned as being part of hospitality. Do you obtain this information from a questionnaire? Is it during your consultation? What ways can we expand further upon that white glove service besides the surprise and delight that you talked about this evening?
Okay, I love your question. Some of this does come with experience. I can't say that like the first 10 weddings I went in with like, oh, I know how to like be the most hospitable officiant. Some of it took like, weddings are their own, they have their own jargon, they're their own niche, they're their own like weddings are their own culture. And so learning to like, okay, this is the typical flow. So I don't know where you're at in your officiating journey or any of that, but I would say the question I do ask about the colors that they're wearing, I do ask that ahead of time. That's in my questionnaire. So for disclosure, I personalize every ceremony that I write. And so I'm not sure. I meet the couple, usually we meet for about an hour or so before their wedding. And that's usually a month or two out. And that gives me a chance to really know them and feel them. So a lot of this like white glove stuff and finding out, well, what would be white glove to them? A lot of that comes up just naturally through the conversation I'm having. So I've done this both ways. I used to have them fill out the questionnaire that I give them, I think has 15 or 20 questions on it. I used to have them meet up with me and we fill it out together. And then I'm like, well, some of these answers I'm getting aren't really, they're not too deep. They're not giving me enough. And so I'm like, well, what if I went about it a different way and I'll send it to them in advance and then we meet after they fill it out. That is my preferred way. That's the way I do it now because it allows me to like sit with what they've given me. And I tell them the more thorough you are, the more personalized everything's going to feel. So giving them permission to like, please be as thorough as you can. And then having their questionnaire, it's important that you go over it and prep before you have the call or before you meet with them in person. You don't want to just be looking at the sheet when you show up. Again, going back to hospitality, like, hey, I've reviewed your sheet, like already have questions down that you want to ask them. Like maybe you do ask them about what colors they're wearing. Maybe you do ask them about what their favorite drinks are. I always like to also ask about like who else is involved in their wedding. So like if you're having music, who's your musician or your DJ? I want to know who they are. And a lot of times I'll reach out to the musician or DJ beforehand, either via text or on Instagram and connect with them. I like to connect with all the as an officiant, like know that you're not alone. Like weddings are a team event.
Right.
And it's sometimes at different weddings, depending on who's running the event, it may not feel like that. Not every wedding has that team like aspect, but the ones that do, you can easily approach it with more like, hey, I'm going to grab a couple drinks. Like, it's okay to communicate that with the wedding planner. Like, hey, I'd like to do this. Or the white glove, another white glove example that's coming up. I learned this. I was a wedding DJ when I was in seminary way back. And one of the things I learned about was the white glove aspect. And one of the things they trained us to do was as a DJ, and I thought this was like, that's not my job. That's the worst thing you can say when you want to provide hospitality to someone is that's not my job.
Gotcha.
So hospitality usually exists like outside your normal job scope for the most part. It usually has nothing to do with what your job title is. So as the DJ, they told us, they're like, hey, when the couple sits down to eat, you go grab their plates and you plate the food for them. And I was like, can I do that? I've never plated food before. And the reactions I got, like that white glove touch when a couple would come in for the grand entrance and I grab their plates and I'm walking with them and I'm the one plating their food and I'm the one grabbing their first. I'm the DJ. Like that's not in my job description at all. But I can't tell you how much, like one, people did not expect that because we don't tell them like, hey, we're gonna grab your dinner for you. They're just like, oh, you don't have to do that. You don't. That's usually how some people will meet you with that. You don't have to do that. I enjoy doing this. This is my way of taking care of you. Like, so the white glove touch can be individualized. Like you may come up with your own, and I would encourage you to come up with your own. Make it your own flavor. Make it like. I was gonna share this story in the gift aspect. I had a wedding DJ here in Phoenix. His name's Trago. He's phenomenal. I had never met him in person. I'd only seen him on Instagram. Just adorable guy, very successful DJ. And my wife, like, we had this ongoing joke. I apologize, I'm about to cuss. If you need to mute me, that's okay. We had this ongoing joke. I don't know how it came about, but it was like the quote, "Fuck you, pay me" type of thing. And without getting into context, like that was like kind of the ongoing joke. We met up to have happy hour. And he bought us, me and my wife and himself, these little wooden bracelets that says, "Fuck you, pay me" on it. He probably spent like $10 on these bracelets. But I was like, who thinks of doing something like that? Like I would have never thought to get somebody bracelets that said this on it. Like, where did you get these? How did you do it? How long did it take?
Right.
Where did you go? Like, but that's him. Like, he made it. Like, I've never forgotten that moment. It was 2 years ago. I've never forgot how that made me feel. As silly as a bracelet may sound, like it's those like little things that you take and make yours, where you're fully being you. And like that is what people like, that people are hiring you. If you're getting asked to officiate, whether you're getting hired or whether you're getting asked by a family or friend, like they're hiring you because of you. Like there's something within, like, so putting a little dash of your own magic in the hospitality, like I can't recommend that more than I already have.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yes, first of all, I also got like completely apprehended by the Will Guidera book this year and just felt like this is practically a ministry, like the way that it saturates culture in general, but definitely this profession. So I'm vibing on how much this speaks to being an officiant. But my question specifically, I wanted to go a little deeper into is something you brought up for a second, but I would love to just have a larger discussion with peers, is about that, how long you stay after the ceremony thing. And I will admit, the more weddings I do, the better I feel like I'm navigating this. And I am now asking in my interview with them, I'm just throwing it out there. Like, hey, it may be a strange question, but I want to know if I would love to celebrate you, but I also don't want to be an interloper on your reception. So let's talk about, plus there's things like whether they're launching right into dinner. So like whether they have a seat and a plate for you, there's some stuff there. And what I noticed in my first few weddings is my introvert self was going on panic. What do I do? How long do I stay? And it was battling with a piece of me that had already really invested in them emotionally. They're my people now. I'm their officiant. So like there's a piece of me I've already given to them. So I want some piece of me really wants to show up for the extent and the length that they want me to. And so like, I guess on a great day, the way it's kind of panned out is like, they were like, you know, I asked the question in advance and they were like, yeah, hang out as long as you want. And they sort of had like a cocktail thing first and then a dinner thing. And I cheersed, I did a toast, you know, and then at like one point, you know, it was kind of like, it felt like it was a part where the evening was shifting. We got hugs, we got a picture. And I said, you know, I made a joke about like, well, my experience is like being the tipsy officiant is in bad taste. So I'm gonna like love you and bow out right now. But I just, there's a whole navigation from the moment that the ceremony's over and all the beautiful variables in between and just everything, anything you guys think about that. I'm really interested in that conversation. So I serve my couples as well as I can.
So I think this is all, your question's very individualized. Like, I think it's going to depend on the individual, because for me, I'm an extrovert, but I hate small talk. I can't stand it. And I don't like, I won't go to networking events where I'm like, I don't know anybody in the room. Like, I do not like doing that. It's very uncomfortable for me. It also, like, for me, what I do is typically I'll sign the license afterwards. A lot of times the couple will want to take a photo. Once the license is signed and I take, you know, in Arizona, there's the portion that gets tore off and we file that. So I take that with me. And then the couple gets the top portion. And I make sure to give that to the wedding planner. I don't hand that back to the couple. They're not going to know what to do with it. They're going to try to find somebody to give it to. So for me, once I give that back to the planner, I'll ask the planner if there's anything else that they need from me. And then I usually take off. That's my own method. I have been asked to stay around for, hey, do you want to, and usually it's not on the day of the wedding. Usually it's before, when I meet with them, like, hey, we'd love it if you know, do you want to stay for dinner? I did that early on and I found that, again, like, it just makes me uncomfortable. Like, so I personally don't stay beyond typically like handing the license back to the wedding planner, because I find, or what I found when I would do that, is I'd sit at a table with a bunch of people I didn't know, and all of a sudden it became, well, how long have you been doing this? And I just kind of get like, I get interviewed for like my entire dinner, and I found myself just saying the same thing over and over again. And I personally, like, I didn't want to do that. And so when a couple asks me if I will stay for dinner, I usually politely decline. And there's usually there's no pushback, and it's not inhospitable to decline a dinner invitation to a wedding. It kind of all depends on the connection you built with the couple. Occasionally I make exceptions depending on like how well I know the couple, or if they're friends, or those are exceptions I'll make. But for the majority of the part, I take off after that. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. I'm sure other people do it differently. But it's all very individualized, and it doesn't, you know, if you choose to not stay, or if you choose to stay, I guess my question would be like, why do you choose to stay? Like, what do you personally get out of staying? How does that fulfill you? How do you feel after staying? Because I found myself feeling extremely drained. Now, if I leave, once I'm done, when I hand that license, I'm on cloud. I'm soaring. Like, I'm on a high from that wedding. And that's usually the case. Like, I'm usually on a high from a wedding for several days after. And if I get back-to-back weddings, I'm just soaring. But what I found is if I go into the dinner and I mingle and I stay for 2 hours, I'm depleted. And I don't want to show up back at my house or my family like that. And so for me, it was just kind of an energetic, like, hygiene or energetic boundary for me to like check in with myself and see, how do I feel after staying at these events? And it didn't feel good to me, so I just don't do it anymore.
Okay, and it looks like we have a few in the chat. So let's see, Linda wanted to ask quickly how much you charged.
So I charge $2,200 to officiate. And then she also, I think, is how, I don't know if this is the same question, but how did you decide your rates? So obviously I wouldn't recommend you just dive in charging $2,200. If you've never done it before, or even if you've only done a few, like I probably wouldn't recommend that. I can speak to when I first started, I had officiated 2 weddings before like creating a business out of it. I was a chaplain in the Army, and I officiated some wedding that I didn't know that people, they just needed somebody as a chaplain in the Army or an institutional chaplain. Like that's part of the job. You just show up. Like you don't really get to say like who you want to marry and who you don't. It just happens. And so, did one there and did one. I officiated my sister's wedding. When I first started, I didn't know how much people would pay. So I used an app called Thumbtack. I no longer use Thumbtack, but Thumbtack got me started. And if you go on either Thumbtack, Wedding Wire, The Knot, you can get a general idea of what people are charging in your area. It's very, you shouldn't have to do it too much digging, but you'll get like average cost of this service in your area. And then that's kind of how I based it on when I started. Like, oh, people charge $275. I think I probably started off charging a little under because I was like, I want to get, I want to get my feet under me. I want to get some bookings, and then slowly raised it up. And every time I've raised it up, it's been a challenge personally. So the idea that I can charge what I charge to officiate a wedding and believing that like what the value I provide is worth that amount feels good to me. And I think when it comes down to cost, it comes down to energy. Again, how do you feel if you charge $500 to do a wedding and you complete that wedding? Are you feeling on cloud 9? Are you feeling great? Are you feeling like, oh, that was an equal exchange of my time for what I charged? Are you feeling like, oh, I ripped them off? Like I'm charging like, wait, I'm charging so much money. Like I'm just collecting checks over here. Like, or is it, man, I feel so exhausted. That was so much work. Like you could like, so there's some of that aspect in it when it's charging prices, like you kind of have to decide like energetically what resonates with you and what you charge. And it's okay if that number changes, because it will, as you progress as an officiant, as you get deeper into the work, the price may change. And that comes with its own challenges when you begin to raise, at least for me, because in the past had struggled with this idea of like charging for services like this, having to deal with that, and having a partner who really said, no, you should totally do that, and kind of seeing my own potential, or somebody else kind of speaking that into me, was super helpful. So getting started, the easiest way is to go on Wedding Wire, The Knot, kind of see what's in your network and what people are charging, and I'd start there.
Wonderful. Okay, we had a couple more questions before we wrap up here. So there's another question. Do you consult with the wedding planner as well as the couple to let the planner know about some of your hospitable moments?
No. no, because I feel like hospitality also has this element of surprise. Like there's a part of me that's going like, he, like I'm gonna keep this to myself. Like it's kind of like this surprise element to it. I also found that, like, again, it's not going to make every wedding planner happy, but I'm not here to make everybody happy. Sometimes I think people thought that I was perceived as like doing their job, or like not every wedding planner was super excited that I got the couple's drinks. Like I'm not here to say that like everybody's going to love you for going outside of your lane. I felt like it was within my lane. So I'm in my own lane, by the way. I march to my own drum beat. I don't like being told what to do, which is why I'm an entrepreneur. I like to be creative. Part of being hospitable is being creative. Like they go together. Like the creativity aspect of, and that's why it's like, I don't have a set of things, because not everybody has an open bar. Or if we're doing an elopement, there is no bar. So for those, like, I'll ask the couple ahead of time, hey, what are some of your favorite beverages and what are some of your favorite snacks? And then we'll pack a cooler. They don't know that they don't have no idea why we're asking these questions. Then I show up with a Yeti cooler full of their favorite snacks and favorite beverages. And they're like, they forget that I even asked them. How did you know we like this stuff? Oh, you told us, like, like you gave us the answers to the quiz. We just like took that and run with it. And so I don't like to tell people. Sometimes I'll tell Shelby, my wife, like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, or like I'll bounce ideas off of her. The officiating community is another great way to like, hey, I have this couple, like, what do you think about, like, I thought about trying this, or like at a bigger wedding, I might try this. Like, it's okay to like bounce ideas off of people. And there's not a one size fits all when it comes to hospitality. Like, hospitality is very individualized.
Awesome. And I think we have time for one more. So is there a way that you can think of that to work hospitality into a license signing only, or like a very tiny micro wedding that's very quick?
Ooh, yeah, you totally could. I'm thinking of like, I've gotten asked to sign like a signing, essentially, like, hey, we don't want to do it at the courthouse. Can you still sign it for us? And we meet up at like a local park or whatever. Bringing a bottle of champagne and two plastic champagne flutes from Total Wine. Like, they're not expecting you to show up with anything but a pen. So again, it's like, what are they expecting out of me? How do I go beyond that? And again, it's the thoughtfulness, not the price of whatever it is you're buying. You don't have to go buy a bottle of Dom to like make people feel over the moon, but go buy a, you know, $15, $20 bottle of champagne with a couple of champagne glasses. Show up to sign their license and say, hey guys, make sure it's cold. Don't show up with a warm bottle of champagne. Nobody will want to drink that. Or get them a bottle of wine to enjoy. Maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you're like, I don't want to like people drinking in the park. Like, maybe that's not appropriate where you live. But like, maybe get them a nice bottle of wine. Hey, go out and celebrate. Get them a bottle of wine and a gift card to a restaurant. Like I'm just coming off of things at the top of my head. Like, those are just little things that you can do to like provide an extra level of service. You could bring, we have a Polaroid camera. You could bring a Polaroid camera, get a picture of them together in the park, give them the photo, like give them something tangible besides the government document that they're going to get. Because the government doesn't send thank you cards. They don't send congratulation cards. So like, you get to kind of be, especially if it's just a license signing, you get to be that cheerleader for them, and a way to like, cupcake party, you nailed it. Like, think of things that most people love, especially with these like license signings. You're probably not going to get a chance to actually get to know them. And so you kind of have to go with a more generic approach, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's still going with a hospitable approach that they're going, like it's going to make them feel loved. And that's really what it's all about. I love all these questions, by the way. I feel like I could just go rapid fire. I don't know when this is up, but whatever you'd like me to do.
Lovely. I think that's about all the time we have. So thank you very much, Rich. That was fantastic. Let's see. Before we head out, Jessica is going to be adding a PDF link in the chat with more information on how to connect with Rich online and on social media. So keep the questions going. You can definitely contact him there. AMM is also hosting an exciting in-person training event next month in Jacksonville, Florida, as part of our Officiant Accelerator series. So come and see us. We also released our 2024 dates and tickets on our website and our stores. So we will be coming to a city near you if you're not near Jacksonville. Thank you all so much for your time. And thank you, Rich, for a wonderful presentation. We hope you have a great Tuesday.